Bueno, how we doing? How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Just stuck.
David?
Hope Chief's coming back. So,
Thank you.
all right. I'll call the Ware Board of Fire Wards meeting of July 11th, 2022 to order. It is 6:02 PM. First item of business is correspondence.
Nope.
Next, under new business, we have George Merrill, GWMM Capital and Holding, map 406, lot 51.3. Yeah, if you could step right up there, that'd be great.
I have a shared driveway that shows it there. It's shared only by deed only without the town's permission because it never went through the planning board to be a shared driveway. But in my deed, it is legal for me to use that driveway. The driveway, it does have 200 feet of road frontage, but the road leaves the road very, very steep. It's at 1015 River Road. I don't know if you're familiar with it. There's a fire pond there that is non-functional that Billy Bovair put in years ago. And years ago, when I first bought it, they thought I was the fourth lot, and that triggered the fire pond had to be operational, which to this day it is not. Vandals got in there and did some damage, and deeding it to the town never transpired the way it should have between Billy Bovair and the town. So I acquired the land and used the right-of-way that's on my deed and in the drawing to access the lot. And I do have a septic design approved by the town and the state. I have, it's been inspected as far as bed bottom to finish building a septic system. And this was quite a few years ago. So since then, the design is only good for 3 years. I renewed it once because I thought I was going to be able to continue going ahead and use that shared driveway. But the conditions I have to meet, the owners of that shared driveway have to sign a maintenance agreement, which they don't want to do because they don't want anybody building next door. So The driveway that I'm using to this day, I don't have a building permit. The driveway I'm using to this day is steeper than 10%. I've made the turning radius, the 60 foot, I believe it is, for fire trucks. There is a turnaround up on top that I showed you in that drawing. And it's a nip pack surface. And my concern is, when I sell it to somebody, I want to know that the driveway that I have in, if I take the neighbors to court or somebody else does, I want to know that the work that I've done can be approved for a driveway, either with a sprinkler in the house or signing a hold harmless agreement. And I know years ago, you could make it mandatory to sprinkle the house, and then I guess with the state, that went away. But I'm willing to do whatever I have to do to, you know, I want to clear this up so that I can pass it to somebody or go to court and get the town's approval to get a building permit.
So, the last time Mr. Merrill was before the board was in 2013, July 9th. It's actually
Pardon?
been July 9th, actually. In 2007, Mr. Merrill was approved for a driveway conditionally upon having the fire pond repaired by Bill Bovier, and that the house would be built to have sprinklers. Which, the concern in 2000, that was in '07. In '13, the board was concerned with whether or not the approval still existed, right? Because nothing had been done
No.
in whatever number of years. And so the board in '13 moved to table the driveway application until they get more information, which was really, most of the discussion was it was conditionally approved before, but because the fire pond, which still had not been fixed, Mr. Merrill recently discovered the driveway is not the one that affects the thing. So it was voted to table in '13, but there is an approval that goes back to '07. Honestly, I don't know whether or not that, I don't think we still know whether or not that's still valid.
And I think the main condition for that to be tabled was to find out if I was the third lot or the fourth lot, which triggered the fire pond being operational.
Well, but I think it's potentially that if the approval is still valid from '07, if it is, then the conditions are still valid, which is one, sprinkle, which I think you're in agreement with that one.
Yep.
And that the fire pond would be repaired, which that hasn't been done either. So,
But-
should the approval still be valid from '07, then I don't know if we have any action to take, but those two conditions would still be valid as well.
A
Which
sprinkler-
is sprinkle and fix the fire pond.
See,
And if it's not valid, then we go back to what this board thinks of the driveway. You offered sprinklers, which we could accept.
Yeah.
For kind of that access piece of it. And there may or may not be some discussion of that fire pond.
But I still think the fire pond was, back then, was because they thought I was the fourth lot, which triggered, it had to be off, because right now, any subdivision that goes through with a fire pond, 3 lots are usually built, and then the fourth one hangs in limbo until the fire pond is done.
And I understand that.
Okay.
I guess the semantics of it is, if the 2007 approval is good, then the conditions are good as well. So we just recently, the subdivision that exists on Sugar Hill Road, that John Hardy was building on the corner, right behind Steve Roberts' place, those conditions come from 2006, that whole approval for subdivision, so and they were still valid today, and so they chose to sprinkle in lieu of a cistern there. That was an agreement that had been worked out in '06, and so those were still valid as conditions on that subdivision. So my sense is that potentially your approval for the driveway is still valid. And-
Okay.
And if it is, then,
If I sprinkle the house.
well, if that approval for the driveway is valid from here, the conditions were, you have to fix, someone has to fix the fire pond.
Yep.
And the house would have a sprinkler.
Yep.
From '07.
But I still think the reason the condition was put in there is because they thought I was the fourth lot, not the third.
Yeah, I
So
so I
can we
think-
revisit?
I
Can
think
we-
that one condition should go away as far as the fire pond being fixed, because I'm only the third lot.
If that was the reason that, if that was the reason no more progress was made and it was tabled because they were investigating,
They were
That,
investigating, and
and-
and we never went any further once they found out. In fact, somewhere I have a letter stating that they all along thought I was fourth and found out that I was the third.
Who did we go out there with, the planning board? I know we met, I can't remember what board it was, if it was ZBA or the planning board, or, because we
I
had
think
done
it
a
was the
site
planning
visit.
board, and you came along too.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
not sure what, memory doesn't serve me as to what happened, what was the conclusion of that.
Well, they
That part of
kind of left it in your hands because of the steepness. Other than that, and then later on, they found out that there was no driveway maintenance agreement signed. I don't know when that came about, but
Yeah, well, like we talked earlier, I mean, there's many
Yeah.
of those situations around town.
so,
And I will say that I have looked at the deed, which is in the file here.
okay,
It does make reference to having a deeded right-of-way access. Seems a little fuzzy as to where that's located, but it does seem like it exists.
sounds like it needs a revisit to me, though, now that we know he's the third lot, so it wouldn't trigger that.
I have a
Cistern.
letter stating, yeah, and I'll bring it to you at some point down the road, just to, and you probably have it in your file as well, somewhere.
So if that's the case, we could make a motion to remove that condition and just have it be the sprinklers.
Like, I definitely don't mind sprinkling the house, but I really don't think it's up to me to fix the fire pond, especially being the third lot.
I don't have an issue revisiting it.
That's
I
fine.
don't think we should get to the final
Yep.
piece of it tonight. I think it might involve a little more
Yeah, I
research,
mean,
just
we-
to make
I-
sure that we're,
I vaguely remember
so,
back then, I remember going up there and looking at the driveway. The ravine between there and the road is substantial. But when you say they, are you referring to the planning board
As far as what?
that thought it was the third or the fourth lot?
The building inspector, and actually, the fire department at the beginning, thought I was the fourth lot, and that's why they wanted to look into it.
well, I recall that we had questions, because I will say that this particular lot, in 2013, was early on in my time here, was an event that we really referenced going forward, which was, what is the order that the Board of Fire Wards should see requests from, landowners for access you know, driveway issues and stuff like that, because we weren't even clear whether there was a legitimate,
Deed to access, yeah,
to access that property in the manner that you had proposed. And so that's, I think, why the planning board kind of we kind of threw it back to the planning board, which is, I'm not even sure we can make a decision on this, because we're not even sure at the time that it really was a shared driveway, right? Or was permitted to be a shared driveway. So I know from my point of view is that I certainly became more sensitive that, you know, when people brought things forward that that they were, when they were before us, that they were, it was time for them to be before us, that they, you know, that we weren't jumping the queue from, say, the planning board saying, yeah, that's a, you know, that really is a lot, or
See, 'cause
that meets the standards of.
to this day, I don't think there's a deed. It mentions it in my deed that the fire department will have a right, you know, I've seen that paperwork. And I've owned it now for what, since 2007,
Well, like I said, I don't have an issue for the board to revisit this. I just
I
think
don't
it needs a
either.
little more
Yep.
legwork just to make
Yep.
sure that we're
Yep.
crossed all our Ts and
Fine with me.
dotted the Is.
Yep.
I agree. This
Yeah.
sounds like a different problem than what I see here.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I, you know, like, I'd like to hear from the planning board, you know, about the subdivision, et cetera. Get that information, the information that you have, so that we're not putting the cart before the horse.
And have you made application for a driveway, or are you just coming to sort
Oh,
this out
yeah, I've
ahead
been
of
through
time?
all that, yes, during and,
Well, I'm pretty sure those expire, though. I didn't know if you have a current one or not.
the current what?
Driveway application, or you're just kind of doing a conceptual?
Yes, I put one in, I know I did. Where it is, I don't know. I've got a very thick file on all kinds of paperwork and it's not all in order. Let's put it that way.
So we're not gonna take any action on this tonight?
Find out more.
Well, I don't know, are you comfortable just coming back next month, or we can make
Yes.
a motion and
Yep.
table it?
Yep.
Either way, it doesn't.
I'll
That way
motion
it'll
to
give you
table.
a chance
Okay,
to
we
go out
have a-
there or, you know.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to table.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Next item, we have All-Purpose Storage Ware LLC, map 403, lot 3.1.
And so just a little background, when the planning board gets applications or plans, the fire department they give copies to different departments, we get a copy. Bob Richards and I looked at the site plan for this, and had a couple of concerns. One was access and the compactness of what was being proposed, and in whether or not we needed to address water supply for fire suppression. And so those were the comments that were sent back to the planning board, and I believe that they suggested you come here to talk to
Yeah,
us.
so we went to the planning board, not last Thursday, but the Thursday before. And we had our second meeting. But they had some comments from the fire department, which I still don't have a copy of. Naomi was supposed to get them to me, and she's been out or something, but anyway. So this is an existing self-storage facility on the north side of town on Route 77.
Is this the one
Familiar
right
with
before
it.
77 Motors?
Yeah, it's next to the
Yeah.
auto parts place.
Yep.
Yep. So it's kind of down off the road and tucked in down off the road. And right now, there's only, oh, this is not gonna work. There we go. Right now, there's only 2 existing buildings in the back here. And I'm not sure when these were built. I think it's fairly old, 20 years or so. We have an excerpt of the site plan. I don't have a full plan. This is just a little snapshot of it. But this building was never built. And we met with the town, and we've been told that the approval for that building is still valid. So this company, Patriot Holdings, has purchased this existing storage facility, and they want to expand it. And, you know, they found out the approval is still valid, and they want to, you know, show it on site plan and build it. We don't have a lot of details on that building, but, you know, it's just what was approved for, and there's no details on this site plan that I have. But at any rate, so it's an existing site plan, existing driveway comes in off of Route 77, and down in here, it's gated, and it'll remain gated, and there's a fence around it, and then there's these 2 existing buildings here. And somebody's added these portables. There's 4 here, there's 1 off the end of this building, and there's 1 over here underneath the proposed building. These will be removed because they're in the setback, and then this one's in the way of the building, you know, where the proposed building is. So they want to expand it with these 2, basically larger than normal storage units, and then a normal sized section here. They're basically maxing out what they can. This is all gravel now. It's already been leveled off and stuff. You know, the edge of the gravel is right back here on the edge of the building. So we're pushing that a little bit further. We're basically maximizing what we can within the setbacks and buildable area, essentially. But for the most part, it's already been leveled off and gravelled. I think this was an old gravel pit. That's what I was told at the planning board. So, you know, as was mentioned, the planning board asked that we come and present to you folks to get your input. So, right now, the only site lighting they have is off these poles, the existing poles. There's a overhead wire that comes back to this pole, and there's an easement associated with that, and then it drops down. There's a meter on this pole. These proposed buildings, they did show building lights on that site plan, but the proposed buildings will have building lights mounted on them. But typically, these are not heated. It's just cold storage. And these are actually going to be used for RV storage. So. The bigger units, and that's why this drive aisle is so wide. Typically, it's only 30 feet, and this is 50 feet. Obviously, this section here won't just be a standard storage unit, but the larger section is intended to be for RV storage. I guess that's a new demand.
And they are gonna build a front unit?
That's the plan, is because this approval is existing, is still valid.
So the larger rectangle
Right. This
that I can, with my
This
poor
is-
eyesight,
this here is like containers.
Yeah.
That will be removed. But yeah, they want to.
so the building would be as big as the larger rectangle is?
Right.
Okay.
And that's another thing the plan board had questions on, you know, what that, it's not your standard storage building, what's that gonna look like inside? And they don't really have any details, they just know this is what was approved,
Yep.
this approval is valid, and so they just want to get it on the site plan. But they do, you know, include it on the site plan, but they do intend on building it at the same time they do everything else. And, you know, it's been kind of a short turnaround since the planning board meeting, so they're working on details on what that building's gonna look like. I think they already have plans for this that we could share, but.
And are you, with Fieldstone?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm Nathan Chamberlain with Fieldstone.
So the RV storage buildings, are those required by the state law to be sprinkled?
Don't believe so. I don't know for certain. It's usually a size, isn't it typically a size limit?
Oh, I thought motor vehicle storage was a trigger for sprinklers.
Okay, I'll have to ask that question. Of the owner.
Yeah, I mean, my suggestion, you know, at this point is that, as this plan gets more in focus is that we utilize the state fire marshal's office for plans review. And they just recently adopted the 2018 codes, which went into effect on passage, so, and I'm not sure what, if that type of use would require sprinklers or not.
So 2018 is
They,
NFPA?
yeah, so the state, I wanna say in the last week or two, just adopted, the 2018 version of NFPA 1 and 101. I may have that information on the phone. But anyways, my suggestion to this board is we would just utilize the fire marshal's office to review these.
So we need to send a set of plans to them?
Well, you would submit them to us and then we would get them.
Okay. So the planning board did send this out for a third-party review of just the grading and drainage.
Mhm.
There'll be comments to address based on that. The planning board had some comments that were fairly minor in nature, that we'll, revise the plan accordingly. It really doesn't affect the layout at all. So, they had concern over, the grade kind of falls off in the back here. And so we gotta fill this back section and proposing a wall to maintain the grade.
And it looks like there's only one way really to access the two shaded properties is in the center aisle, right? You can't drive around them.
Yeah, so there should be enough room to get around the end of that, but primarily through the center, yeah.
Yeah.
So, we have 30 feet here, which is more than enough room to drive around.
I think what the chief is indicating is on, behind the building and on the front of the front building, we're not able to put a fire engine on either side of that. So
Oh,
we have to be,
around the whole building?
yes,
No, you're just gonna get in the middle.
right.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so the new state fire code is the 2018 edition of NFPA 1 and 101.
Okay,
And there's a number of amendments and stuff of how they interface with some of the other things that are out there, but. In RV storage in both of those?
yes. On the
In the
wider
back.
sections.
Yep.
Yeah. These, existing storage units are just standard cold storage.
So at the smaller end of that building, that's probably 20 feet,
Yes.
okay, 20-foot depth.
Yeah, that's only 20
Okay.
feet. That's your standard width. 10 by 20 units.
And what's the separation in there?
Between the proposed,
Yeah,
this is 50 feet. And we have 30 feet here, 28 feet, between this
Yeah.
portable and the proposed building.
That's really limited
so
access.
when, I guess, so what's the time table that they envision or would like to?
We'd like to get it going this year, but
Okay.
obviously we have to get through the
Yep.
planning board.
Okay. Do you envision any revisions to this site plan? Like, regardless of what we say, do you see this changing much, if
I
any?
don't see it changing much, so like I said, the planning board had some comments.
Yep.
Nothing major that would change the layout, and then they sent it out for third-party review. That engineer is just looking at the grading and the proposed drainage system.
Sure.
So, they did, one of the planning board, one of the concerns was the runoff from this building, but again, this is per the approved site plan. So, but we can certainly look at doing something, to do something with the roof runoff off of there as well. When we did the drainage calc, we didn't, really wasn't part of it, we're only focused on the new stuff here.
Mhm.
'Cause again, this is all gravel as well, so.
Is there any pavement in there at all?
It's paved.
Okay.
This,
Underneath the portables that
heavier
you're
line.
removing in the back, is that paved?
this is proposed to be paved, yeah. So this dash line is pavement around the edge, the existing layout.
Oh, okay.
Then it's all gravel outside of it. The gravel line is a lot lighter, it's a lighter dash. But there's so many lines that you really can't
Yep.
distinguish it. But, we'd certainly take any comments you may have, like if you have concerns over this width or that width.
Both of those concerns.
Yeah. I mean, getting a fire truck all the way around the buildings would be the obviously ideal for access, I would imagine.
Well, if either one of those buildings are going, would you want to put a truck in between them?
No.
No, you'd be in the exposure. That's why I said it's pretty limited access.
But I mean, a lot of houses you can't get behind either. So I don't see why we'd need to restrict.
Yeah, we've done a lot of these without access around all the buildings, and it's never been an issue before, so. And typically, like I said, typically it's a 30-foot width between a standard one, but this is wider because of the type of use. I mean, if there was full access around it, I'm not sure that would, we have to rethink the whole design, basically. I don't think this layout would work.
So we could table and check the fire marshal and see what they say and revisit.
Well, I
Tell
think
me what
we
you
should
see up
just-
there.
We should just make a motion to submit to the fire marshal's office for third-party review.
Is that a
Just
mo-
to prevent you from coming back and wasting another.
Yeah, no.
Is that your motion?
Fine.
It can be.
Would you like it to
I
be?
make a motion to submit, do you have more detailed plans as to what the new buildings are gonna look like?
I believe
far
they
as,
have
like-
those, not for this one up here, but for the back ones, I believe we have those.
Okay.
So I can get those to you.
And they don't have to be, I don't need to see the nuts and bolts necessarily, but, just, I assume they're metal.
Yep. Yeah, they're metal,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's your standard metal storage unit.
And then, obviously, whatever height, width, size stuff. And I don't know what you have on there for dimensions as far as between the buildings and,
Yeah, that's all
is
dimensioned.
it on there?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the, what's proposed, the existing isn't dimensioned, but
Okay.
the dimensions off of the existing to the proposed and then to the lot lines and everything in between. And the buildings are all dimensioned as well.
So I'm just gonna make a motion to submit, suitable plans, so it kind of covers a bunch of what we talked about, to the fire marshal's office for third-party review.
Motion's on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Do
sir.
you want me to send you a set of plans, or do you have a set?
I only have probably the cover page of the site plan.
Okay, I'll send you a full set, and then I'll also get the building plan.
Yeah, and if you have any details of the actual buildings, that would be fine.
Certainly.
And they're fairly responsive,
Okay, great.
yeah.
Yeah,
They
'cause we
may
have,
look at
one-
it and be like, oh, just, this and this, and-
We're on for the 28th, but I'm not sure if,
of July.
yeah. So I'm not sure if K&A is gonna have their thing done, their review.
Well, we may get an answer on whether that has to be sprinkled or not,
That would be
like
good.
that quick.
Yeah, 'cause that would really, be
Change,
substantial.
probably change the way you look at the project. Okay,
Yeah, this is kind of a new one for us too. It's usually just your typical storage unit you rent out to every homeowner, you know?
yeah.
Can we also find out if there's anything in that code that requires, you know, circumferential access for fire
Yep, that'll all be included in that. And it probably is not need to be 360, but it probably would need to be,
Three sides?
some access, right? Maybe 180 or something. If you look at, whatever that building is, Dollar General or whatever it is, we don't go all the way around, but you have, you know, you do have access to 3 of the
Three
four
sides.
3 sides. Oh, yeah.
All right,
Or 2.5, or 4.
Thank you very much.
thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
Do you have a card?
Oh, sure.
That would be, did I give you one?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Okay, while they're doing that, we'll go to minutes approval. We'll start with the we have June 13th and June 27th to do.
The June 13th minutes. Motion to adopt pay scales, Lieutenant Captain, notes past 6:0 and 0. I would like to note that I abstained from both of
Oh,
those
yeah,
votes.
that's probably true. June what? Both of
June
them?
13, I abstained from both
Yeah.
Yes.
votes.
Do you want to forfeit your copy of the minutes? I
What's
might
that?
have them here. Hang on a sec.
I have them here if you want me to just mark
June
them up.
13th. Yeah, if you want to just mark them up and then I can. Oh, yeah. So what's that, 5, 0, and 1 then?
Yes.
Okay. Pass that one down, Chief.
Okay, is there anything else?
So you had a motion to accept as corrected, is that?
Yes.
That's your motion?
Yes.
Wayne made the motion.
I'll second it.
We have a second. Any more questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
I wasn't there.
501. Okay, let's move to the June 27th meeting.
Move to accept minutes for the June 27 meeting as printed.
Okay,
I'll second it.
we have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I will.
Passes 501. Thank you. Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Next, we have the manifest. For this month.
Motion to accept the fire department's accounts payable manifest for checks dated 7/14/2022 in the amount of $16,510.14.
We'll second
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Motion carries. Administrative report.
We spoke last meeting. I don't know, not much going on. I did talk about last month coming in with a rough, not rough, but a looking at the default number in the budget process of whether or not that would, perhaps provide some guidance or what have you. I have that. Do you wish to see it?
Sure.
Sure, yes,
Okay.
yes, please.
Bring your glasses. Oh, yep.
I brought mine, but I don't know if it's gonna work.
Probably should change out my contacts for this one.
Ooh.
When Beth printed it today, she's like, ooh, yeah, it's kind of small. And really what the thought process on my mind was is that, you know, I feel that obviously the default number is the default number, and then looking at what's in the default number, I guess, and what's not, and then what is that difference as we sit here today. That doesn't mean that the proposed budget is gonna have, those numbers as they exist on this page, but just to give you a sense of where we're at on that. So the far right columns, lines up the 2023 default and proposed budget together, and then earlier on to the left, it has the default against what was approved this year, and then the proposed what was against what was approved, to give you some sense of how things move around. We did notice that there was a problem, not a problem, but an error, if you will, in the Medicare line. I think I fixed that in this copy, so if something seems really out of whack, we can look at it and see if maybe there's a problem with that. In the proposed, I assumed a 3% increase in the capital area number, which I don't know, have any clue what that's gonna be. I think 3% is, will cover that. And then there's just, some adds and deletes. You have to remember that we're on the third year of a default budget this year, so there are some numbers that are, frankly, 4 years old. And I will point to, say, I think it's telephone is the one that pops into my head, right? We've been trying to fix that telephone number for a number of years because the amount that we're funded at, because we've been in the default budget for a couple of years now, we've just been unable to get the accurate number in there. I think on the, off the cuff, I think you're in a really good place to potentially come in, close to default, if not at default, with some looking around.
So where you have 2022 approved budget and 2022 proposed budget under the proposed, so it's the fourth set of numbers over, is where I am. You got the first set is 19, 20, 21. The second
Yep.
number is 22, 23 default. The
Yep.
third group, that's where I am. So
Okay.
at the bottom, the difference between the approved budget,
Yep.
that would be the number, but then the proposed budget, so does the approved budget, does that include the special warrant articles
Yes.
that was
Yep.
approved? Okay.
Yeah, so the, just confirm this.
And-
Yeah. So what that does is, if we said, hey, if you vote for this, we're gonna change this line and this line or whatever, those changes have occurred in the budget.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think of one that we said that would happen.
So the proposed budget amount is as if all of those warrant articles, separate warrant articles were passed.
In the proposed one, in which one?
I'm just, for 2023 or 20,
No, so the 2023
Yeah,
proposed budget is,
I'm sorry.
the
Never
22
mind.
approved budget includes all the warrant articles that
Gotcha.
were,
Gotcha.
which I think was really just what, full-time firefighters, I think was the only one that really.
Capital area.
In capital area, right? So in capital area, that's a good one, I'm glad you mentioned that. So in capital area, if you look at the approved budget, right, is 17,637 and 22. Pretty much
Oh.
in the middle of the page, right?
That's, well, dispatch is what you're reading.
Oh, so that, I'm sorry, so that's in dispatch, right? That's only for 3/4 of the year. And then we flip over to capital area. So we asked for 21,060. The voter said yes. And we said that represents the last quarter of the year, and that the next year's budget would be, a full annualized amount would be that 237. That's in the default budget, the 84,237, because it's defaultable. And then in the proposed budget, most likely that number's gonna be slightly bigger. We just stuck 3% in that to give you some sense.
So,
Right, the big unknown is fuel, what's gonna happen there, what the futures look like for that.
so I have a
And-
question.
And just to finish on fuel, is that we are awaiting our access fobs, I guess, so that we can start using the state fuel pump. So we have an account with them, we're ready to go, it's just waiting for that, them to catch up with that. I think regardless of fuel pricing, the state's most likely always gonna be less expensive than town fuel. And I think it just kinda gives us options, even if prices become settled back down. If we're driving by, there's no reason why we couldn't stop and get fuel, at the state price versus, it's just the delivery mechanism is gonna be cheaper to be at the state than it is here.
Never mind.
Anything else?
We have a meeting tomorrow, with staff to kind of sort out some of the details that are still up in the air as to roles and responsibilities and, other than that, I think we're in good shape.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. You're gonna come back and take the minutes for us, right?
No.
So,
Even like the fact they scheduled a meeting for tomorrow night.
who's they? Oh,
I'm not sure who it was,
oh,
but I'll find out.
tomorrow night, not during the day? Oh.
Isn't that
Had to make it so everybody could attend.
So, going forward, where you've been taking the minutes, is that something that we want to, have somebody come in and do? Or does somebody wanna take that on?
Okay,
I already said.
You, yeah, you already know, I'm awful at writing.
I will volunteer
And if you're not here,
Thank you.
and someone else must.
okay.
Louisa. She's not here, she's the one. That's how that works.
Okay, we'll
Yep.
see how it goes.
Yeah, just
we
say,
we
we'll
can.
find someone.
Yeah, we had trouble before because our meetings are usually at best once a month, so it was hard to find people that were willing to commit to that one time for that short amount of time.
I can do it if need be.
But, yeah,
Yeah,
okay. I just thought I'd get the
I
feeling
can't
of,
spell half the
just thought
words.
I'd get the feeling if,
You're like, what?
we can try it, and if it doesn't work, then I can speak to Naomi and we can see about if one of the other board people would be willing to come in and do it.
Okay.
Okay? All right. Anything else?
Over Gucci.
Make a motion to adjourn.
There you go.
will
Heard
second
from Dave.
at 6:51.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
What's the time on that?
6:51.
There you go, Dave.
To be 6.